Hi, everybody. It's Leslie Thornton, and welcome to my interview with Dana Penenberg. I'm really excited to have Dana here today. In my description, I was talking about how people get to move faster through emotional eating and any really unhealthy relationship with food as a result of getting to work with Dana. And I'm excited to work with Dana. Well, I am working with Dana, but also chat with Dana because her story goes way deeper and beyond that. And it's my firm belief that at Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, we actually go a lot deeper than any other weight loss or any other emotional eating or intuitive eating company that there is. I have been a part of many of them. And to have someone be able to actually go super deep into the subconscious, which is really the body, right? And be able to heal some of these really deep childhood wounds that could happen, whether that's, a huge ordeal or as silly as mom pushing me off her lap and then I made up a story that, mom abandoned me and nobody can ever love me again, right? These kinds of things that can happen to us in our past can affect everything that we're doing in our day-to-day life and our ability to be at peace and present. That allows us to have that inner peace and freedom that so many of us are looking for. And if there's anybody who is the example of inner peace and freedom and living intuitively and being super self-aware of energy and how our energy affects other people and ripple effects out, it is Dana Penenberg. And I had the opportunity to actually have a session with Dana about a year ago. And I was actually experiencing some lower back pain. And I just took advantage of her session, and I had done and do deep somatic work, kind of going into the body and feeling into, whatever's happening, and then just kind of letting whatever thoughts or memories pop in to be able to kind of heal that stuff. And so Dana and I just went full throttle right in at it. And, the end of that session, the back pain was gone. I had had it for maybe a month or 2 months at that point, and it never came back again, even a year later. So the power of this work is super tremendous and gives people actual results in their life of not being as obsessed, in our case, with food and dieting and exercise. So Dana, thank you so much for being here. And thanks for the work
Thank
that
you for
you do.
having me, Leslie, and for the generous introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. We were chatting before about my hilarious green screen that doesn't have anything on it yet, but at least we have something there. So get that distraction out of people's minds. But anyway, so Dana, I'd love for you to start by just sharing how you started getting into this work, maybe your personal story of healing, and start going from there.
Okay, so um, I don't, I mean, it really started in the womb. If I could trace it back. My mom was doing Kundalini yoga when she was pregnant with me. She started doing it when she was pregnant with my older sister. And so I kind of grew up with that. I went to a Sikh preschool. I grew up going to solstice camps, and I grew up around the mantras and the yoga. And I grew up, on herbs and homeopathics. So, and then when I was 16, I went on a journey of my own to dive deep and find it for myself. The on the other end of the spectrum, my mom was that way, and my father is a Western medical doctor. He's an orthopedic surgeon. So I came into this very polarized environment. And I got very sick when I was 16, and I I had access to all the best medical specialists. So I experienced the best of what Western medicine had to offer me. I ended up being misdiagnosed for a year and a half. Um, it's a really long story, and my mom wrote a whole book about what we went through, but it led me, I always had a deeper vision of what healing was, and I wasn't given the answer that was satisfactory to me. It was like I was either given a name, I was given a name for my symptoms, and then I was given various band-aids in the form of medications, and I felt like we weren't getting to it. And I think that's similar to the people that are drawn to your work. They're like, we've tried these band-aids in the forms of diets, and we're not healing this thing at the source. So we just went on a deep journey and like tried all different sorts of modalities. And I had a very complicated case of chronic Lyme disease. And yeah, the Western treatments or the antibiotic treatments, they would always cause more harm to my system, and I'd get worse without getting better. And so I didn't really have that as an option anymore. And we went back and forth for years, like on different treatment protocols, but ultimately my system was too sensitive and I would develop more allergies the more treatment that I did. So it led me to the energetic work and the somatic work, and led me to my teachers. So I was on the treatment table of my craniosacral therapist for 12 years. And whatever I was going through treatment wise, I could always get on that table and just be related to at the soul level. And I didn't have the words for what that was until I turned around and started studying it a few years ago. But that's what I came to find was so important in healing, was like honoring the soul. And if you don't, you're just doing, applying band-aids.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love what you're saying. And I knew when I scheduled this interview with you, Dana, that I was going to like even learn even more about you. That was going to make me like you even more, appreciate you even more, and your story even more, and kind of validate the reason why I've chosen you to be on my team and to be able to support my clients. Because not only did I work with you for about a year on my own personal healing and that kind of stuff, but then to directly see that, no, my clients need this work in order to get to their next step. And as you're talking, so right now, for everybody who's watching, some people who are watching are in the program right now, or some people are just in the Facebook page. They haven't signed up for Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss yet. But Dana does one session per month with everyone in the front end of going deep into this kind of place. And then 2 sessions on the back end in the mastermind program for people who choose to continue, which I think is like worth the price of the programs in and of itself, just to have sessions with you. But as you're talking, it makes perfect sense to me that I relate and appreciate you so much, because I came from a background where my mom is a nurse, my dad's a physical therapist. The medical mindset is very present, and I'm a nurse by trade. And then when I found, and I was struggling and suffering with dieting and exercising and like this for my entire life, tried every diet under the sun, every band-aid under the sun, right? And, nothing was working. And when people find me, they're at that place. They have tried everything and they just can't make it happen, and they're not happy, and they're just at the end of the rope. I used to call my business at the end of your rope weight loss coaching, right? Because it's at that place. And, to what I love, Dana, and you can let me know what you think about this.
I just saw some numbers on the screen.
Yeah, hopefully we're back. Anyway, so
okay.
Maybe we lost the connection.
So that's very important what you were saying, and I'm here with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. And I mean, first of all, like, it makes me so angry that this isn't the norm, I guess, to see people go through all of that. And I think the message or the story around that is like, in some ways it's your fault. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to see that. But I do, on the flip side, I know that for those of us that those traditional methods, aren't enough, it's because the soul is calling for something deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the other side of that wound is the gift.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. And if it wasn't for me discovering hypnosis, right, I kind of talk to my clients about how your food and weight loss journey could be a blessing in disguise, right? Every time that you have that trigger, or you emotionally overeat, or you binge, or you stress eat, or whatever that looks like, right? It's kind of this window of awareness into another area of your life that you're getting stopped, and if you choose to actually go towards it, right, and heal the stuff. I just had a client last week who she was getting coaching, took her through some of the things to kind of identify what she was believing that was causing her to feel this angst about her body and her weight and all that kind of stuff. And then as we started to uncover, she realized she was really just missing her father who passed away not too long ago, right? And it's like, we will have these feelings and we think that we're so upset because our pants didn't fit. But in reality, it's like this cover up for the fact that we're still having this deep grief, and we just haven't given ourselves permission, or we just have been totally unaware of the fact that that's what's happening underneath the surface. So to be able to hold space for that. And then the actions that she's then taking as a result of that awareness of the fact that she still misses dad is like writing a letter to dad and, saying how much you miss him, and any way that you're feeling about that process and the way you're feeling now, to have that emotional detachment, versus constantly obsessing about food and dieting and weight all the time. It's like, that's not actually what's happening here. Your
Right.
brain is just tricking you into thinking that's the biggest problem, but it's really these other deep-seated things.
Yeah, it's easier to live a life of distraction and to place it on external things rather than sitting with the uncomfortable feeling. And so I feel a lot of, compassion and forgiveness around that. It's so much easier. And we're not given these safe spaces to feel and be related to in that way. And that's the power of holding space. The work that you do, the work that I strive to do, is just meeting a person where they're at in those uncomfortable emotions, and then they just move.
Oh, so beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see for clients, I want to ask you also about what it's been like for you now that you've been working with the hypnosis for permanent weight loss clients and what you've seen, maybe some patterns, but is that this fear of abandonment is huge, right? If I let myself be seen in all these different ways, right? If someone sees me when I'm angry, if someone sees me when I'm sad, if someone sees me when I'm, just not feeling great, right? Then they're going to abandon me. So then we start to stuff this stuff down, and then we end up in relationships that aren't working, in jobs that are making us miserable, right? All because we're scared of not having enough money or not having whatever. And it keeps human beings stopped and stuck for sometimes their entire lives. And so it's like, when you are given the opportunity to have someone reach out their hand and say, hey, it's safe to practice having all of your emotions be out on the table here, and validate the fact that they are absolutely real. And then for you to then get over that, then what I see is then clients are then able to take those actions in their life, and they're not so scared to speak up because they went through the hardest, scariest part, right, in a safe space. And over time, right, working with you over time, working in our programs over time, those emotions just don't seem scary at all, and you're able to start walking through them on a regular basis on your own, which is what I want for all my clients, is to be able to have emotional mastery and just mastery in all areas of their life at the same time. But it's scary to go through those emotions if you've never done that before. So yeah, I'm curious, have you noticed any patterns or anything as you've been working with my clients in their sessions on this stuff?
Yes. Holding on to weight is a way to protect yourself, and it is an intelligent response of the body. Um, and then it's it's all relational, as you and I talk about all the time. It like often goes back to early bonding with your mother, and that's the first experience we have of being fed and nourished. And it's all about the physical contact, the eye to eye connection. And so there are ways of going in and excavating and seeing where the source of that pain is and what it is for the individual person, what they made it mean. Um, yeah, so it's relational, and in the sense that it's relational, it's like when a client experiences with us that it's safe to feel and be seen, they can repattern the relational wound and take that into their life, experience that it's safe to feel, hold space for their own emotions, whether it's in meditation, but like creating the safe containers, and then it's not really about needing that from the people in their lives, but it will start to shift and have a natural shifting toward being the full self and being seen and feeling along the way that it's safe to do so, and it's safe to let go of that protection.
Yeah, it's awesome. Which kind of brings us all the way back down to I talk to my clients about authenticity all the time, right? The way that we really attract all the things that are absolutely in resonance that can make us happy long term, including our weight and our body and our food and all that kind of stuff is, it's by becoming more authentic and being more at peace and at home with all aspects of yourself, and like first you have to know thyself and peel back all these layers, because otherwise the way that we're acting and being in life is, like you're saying, like a protective mechanism, like a way to stay defensive. Like there's so many personalities that I come up with, and I know that you come up with as well, right? Of people that are, seeking that kind of help. And like I always say, all my clients are very successful people. They all have, accomplished major things, lots of times professionally, also, have great, just great victories in their lives, right? But they can't master this area. And, their personality will be very, like very strong and very, can be, very authoritative or something like that, or they just, have it all together, or they, right? But like that exact piece of them that I am seeing, right, is also the exact same piece of them that's holding them back from being able to have this life of inner peace and freedom and happiness that I believe that everybody wants. And yet talking about, when you're born, right, your mom or whatever caretaker, that's that first intimacy that you're getting, and food is the first thing that you're ingesting in that time, for comfort, for love, for affection, for physical touch, right? And I love what you're saying about then repatterning your ability. And I always talk about being able to give that to yourself, right? Like, what would it be like to actually have compassion for yourself, to not be hard on yourself every time that you overeat, to not, panic about your pants not fitting the next day, to have anxiety about, that was always my reality, and I trust that every part of my path has led me to here. I needed to do every diet to get myself to the end of my own rope, right? And experience that hypnosis. And kind of going back to my initial thought that I was thinking about in the initial part of our conversation, Dana, was, about coming from that medical place, but still being super stopped and stuck. Like I've always had success in business areas, but not as much with, health. And I mean, health status always been healthy, but weight, and relationship with food and relationships, and I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, there must be something happening with me. I'm on to myself at this point. The same thing can't keep happening over and over again. And for me to expect that it's not something that I, can work on, which is why I'm so grateful to have coaches like you in the world that can help, us rewire and repattern all these kinds of things. But yeah, you talk a lot in your work about your relationship from you to you. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, something that has been coming up as you've been speaking is that, and you do this so well, like how you lead people into intuitive eating, but because of like in most cases it's the early relational wound, and that they weren't seen and related to as their true self.
Mm.
And then, so it is about going in and doing that work to reconnect with the intuition, the voice of the intuition, and the voice of the body around what nourishes me. So.
Mm-hmm. No, and I can relate to that on a personal note. It has been a practice of me exercising, my intuition. And it did have to start, and this is probably one of the hardest part for my clients, is accepting that where they are is okay. Right? It's like, first I need to lose the weight and then I'll be okay. And everything's going to be safe and sane then. But it's like, you have to start where you're at, learn how to love and accept where you're at, go through the process of being able to heal some of these patterns, unhealthy patterns with eating or food or whatever, your body and weight, relationship with yourself. And then, once you have that foundation in place, we naturally start feeling motivated to be able to take care of ourselves. And it's like, sometimes we don't know what's going to happen with our weight, but we can't control that. But when we master being able to listen to that intuition and being able to feel into our body and be like, how does ice cream make me feel? right? Versus ice cream is just a bad food to eat, and I shouldn't be eating that. But it's like,
Yeah.
try it out yourself. How does that make you feel? Mm-hmm.
That's what was coming to mind also as you were describing, and oftentimes what comes up in sessions is that people have these behaviors of controlling, or I need to eat this and not that, and kind of overriding the body's messages so that they lose the weight. Again, just focusing on the symptom rather than the source of the issue. And so always overriding the body's needs and the body's messages. Um, and so, yeah, your program really allows people to connect back to, how does that make me feel? Am I choosing to eat this? Or what reason am I choosing to eat this? Sometimes I tell people, if they're having an urge to eat, to self-soothe, if maybe they can get a hug instead, or
Mm-hmm.
what is it that their body is asking for? Is the body asking for love? We confuse those things sometimes.
I
Um,
see it all the time. Yep. And for a while, like when COVID first started, even I was living by myself, and it was like very isolating. And I could tell. I was like, my body's just craving physical touch, and I can't have it. Right. And so I'm curious, what would you say to that person, who is in that
oh
kind of
yeah,
situation?
right now. So my tips for people right now, especially those that are single, is, do you have a pet? Do you have a pet that you can snuggle with? This is co-regulation of the nervous system. And we cannot feel ourselves sometimes if we don't have like a body next to us to kind of reference and ground to. So pets are really helpful, and then also weighted blankets. Um, the the compression is really soothing to the nervous system, and it gives the effect of a hug. And I call them adult swaddles, like how you swaddle a baby. But it's very soothing. It helps you feel yourself again.
I think those are great tips. And two other ones that came to me was mirror work. Like sometimes just being able to actually look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself in your eyes, and just really have a conversation with yourself. Like, hey, I see you. Like, it can be very grounding to actually, look at yourself in the mirror and remember, oh yeah, hey, that's that person over there.
I
Sometimes
love
we just get so
that.
lost in our brains, right? And then also being able to just put your bare feet on the ground, in some
Yes,
grass or
definitely.
anywhere like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the frequency of the earth is very kind of reconnecting for us. Um, yeah, relating to nature in any way. Like, I know it's probably seems silly, but like, yeah, laying in the grass, hugging a tree, co-regulate with a tree.
Yeah,
Um,
I
breathe
agree.
that oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then so back to the relationship you to you, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where we reprogram in the subconscious. We go into the dream state. We find out what that story is, what that wound was, and then the reparenting is between your adult self and your younger self. So then you learn, you kind of create wholeness in all those places in yourself that you've fragmented. You create more wholeness, and you learn how to talk to yourself throughout a day. You learn when the 2-year-old is screaming at you and needs something, and how to attend to those parts of yourself. And
Well,
then, there are times as well where, like, we don't even have a reference for what that love was that we needed. So that's where we call in the higher power, the source energy, or divine guides. Like, we bring it all in. The divine will help us resource where, we didn't get that information.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, and what I love about it is, even if none of this, makes sense to anybody else, it's um, the repetition of it, And there was times when I was working with you where I was like, I don't know where this is actually headed. Like, I don't know how this, but it's just like through the repetition of over and over again, being with my emotions, and bringing in, the imagination of a source or a guide or a mentor or something like that to give me that kind of love and compassion that I was looking for. And I will share that when I first started working with you, I was in a relationship that was tumultuous, right? And it was like the day that I absolutely needed, right, this, there was like a major shift in that relationship. And then I knew that this relationship probably wasn't going to serve me forever, right? And I knew from my body knew that I was not going to be able to detach from this person, right? And so I decided to just go all the way in on it, right? But to make sure that I had your guidance and support as I was moving through that relationship until I felt that I had detached from that. It was just something that I knew. And literally the last day that you and I had a session scheduled together, that relationship ended. And within that same week, I met another person that is like the epitome of unconditional love, like all of the reparenting patterns, you know, that would be like ideal case scenario. This person exercises on a regular basis. And like I personally, I'd have something like I'm not crying, although I probably could. I personally like 100% believe that there is a direct correlation between doing this work and getting yourself prepared and ready for the next best thing, right? But until we learn how to give ourselves love and compassion and repattern ourselves, like we can't attract in somebody else that could, you know, show us what we've been working on for so long. So thank you
Yeah.
for being with me on that journey, because it was hard. And it was so worth it to have it happen versus continuing to have, you know, a similar thing like that happen over and over again.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. And I know that you had expressed to me the concern of like, am I wasting my time? And should I just,
Mm-hmm.
am I doing the right thing? And I mean, it's not for me to tell you what choices to make in your life, but no, there's no wasted time. And you were learning and growing all along the way. And we do that in relationship. And
100%.
then it prepared you to create that space for your list or your ideal person to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that magnetism. It's like the more that you are exuding that into your energy field, the more that it will be drawn to you. It can recognize you and you can recognize it.
100%. That whole law of attraction thing. And obviously, as we're chatting, like, you know, the food thing I think is awesome. Like, I say to people, like, congratulations. If you're investing in yourself to get help on your relationship with food, you are really at a really great place, because to me, it's the ultimate place of healing because of everything that we're talking about. We're talking about intimacy, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about reparenting and repatterning the subconscious, and like those are the things, right? And once we actually start working on those things that are happening in the background, it's like it's really hard during the process, you know, everything that my clients are doing to get past their fears of gaining weight, right? Or their fears of certain foods that are going to cause certain issues and problems in their bodies based on the research and the science, which I totally appreciate and know all about, right? But it doesn't change the fact that there's this unhealthy relationship going on in the background with you that is not your fault at all. But there is a way to actually go in there and start a different journey that's going to lead you to having whatever it is that you want. And I guess my message, and I'm going to ask you what yours would be for people, Dana, is just to know that absolutely anything is possible. You know, like I thought I was going to be plagued with dieting and exercising and being afraid of all of this stuff for the rest of my life. You know, I thought that that was just the bad hand I was dealt, right? And to now see it as being like, I don't think about that at all. I have more inner peace and freedom in my life than I've ever had, ever, right? And like now I get to focus on other things, you know, I get to focus on bringing this message out to so many more people, and, you know, having a team that I get to pay you guys and make you guys feel financially safe and secure, and, you know, making my clients' families happier because they're happier because they're not, you know, frustrated and anxious because of their body and weight and stuff anymore. But none of that ever would have been possible if I didn't find hypnosis, right? Which is not the medical system, which is what we're talking about here, you know? And I always say to people, because hypnosis has so many forms, I say there's passive hypnosis, which is actually, you know, sitting and relaxing and hearing a message, right? But the kind of work that you do, right, in the more psychosomatic stuff is, I call it active hypnosis, where you are going in there, you have a guide to support you, right? But you're actually the one who's reparenting and repatterning some of these old programs of how to be unconditionally loving to yourself, have compassion, have acceptance, right? And be able to be more expansive to then do exactly what you're saying, attracting, you know, all things that are more in alignment with your true self and authenticity at the end of the day, which is there anything more beautiful than that? I say no. So anyway, yeah, Dana, anything else that you feel inspired to say, or like any message that you would want to give, this audience today about their path of healing with food and their relationship with themselves and their bodies?
That's really awesome, Leslie. Like, you always inspire me, and I'm 100% on your page about that, that it's a portal for, like, this is one way that they're being called into their purpose. It might look a different way for someone else. For me, it looked like Lyme disease. For them, it looks like this, but it's a portal into their potential. And because they're drawn to your work, they are, truly expansive beings. They might not know it yet. Even, I know you expressed this to me when we started working together. You said, I do this work, like could I just do it on myself? And after we had a few conversations, it's like I don't even do that. I get someone to give me sessions every week as well, because we are our own little echo chambers of our subconscious stories, and we need that person to go in and kind of hold that space from outside of our little chamber, and yeah, be that mirror.
Multiple times when your voice was the only voice of reason. If I didn't hear that voice, like, I would have stopped, and that's where having that support and that container and that other voice to say, and mine, just to be, I had this fear of manipulation going on. I don't know if you remember that session, but I was like crying, kicking and screaming, not wanting to do it. And you're like, you're in a trigger. It's time to go in. Like, nobody can actually manipulate you anymore. Like, you're not two or whatever it is, and to get past that fear was just major to just, and then, no matter what anybody is saying or doing, it's just like, you can keep that state of zen, not have that reaction. And from there, all good things could come. So I love everything that you're saying. Awesome, Dana. Well, thank you so much for this interview, and thank you for the work that you do and how much you're supporting every one of my clients. It's absolutely amazing. They're so happy. I had another client the other day say she was having back pain for so many years, and it's gone right now after, and she thinks it's because of her session with you and just doing this work, and it's just so incredible. So thank you for all the time that you've spent to train yourself and to be that person who's waving that flag for transformation today. We appreciate you. So how can people, if they're resonating with you, how can they find you?
Thank you so much, Leslie. Yes, people can find me at my website. It's www.danapenenberg.com. Do you need me to spell that out?
We actually have your name right on there. So it's www.danapenenberg right on your screen if you're looking.com. Yep.
Oh, and yeah, it's my name, danapenenberg.com. And then my email address is hello@danapenenberg.com.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Look forward to hearing from you and helping you out wherever you are.
Absolutely. Can't recommend Dana's services enough. And for those of you who are already my clients, yay, I can't wait to see you again. And thanks for being on this wild journey of healing all these blocks and wounds from the past. And, just know that I see you, and, there's no coincidence for our having this, journey together at this portion of your time. And for those of you who are, just considering or looking at this or resonating with what we're saying, just shoot us a message. You can shoot me a message right through the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss Facebook group. If this is the podcast that you're listening to, you can email me at coachmeleslie@gmail.com, and we can send you over a free training as well. So Dana, thank you again so much, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Leslie. Bye.
Bye.